Over the past decade, we've seen some amazing advancements in technology, health, and science. And yet, in the United States alone, we have millions of our children that are suffering from debilitating diseases, from homelessness, and from depression caused by the breakup of the family unit. Much of our society and the support systems are broken. And the reason they remain broken is due to the lack of resources, financial resources, to fix them. However, everyone in this room has a charity or a humanitarian cause that's near and dear to your heart. So I'd ask you right now, just for a moment, if you can close your eyes and visualize that charity, that humanitarian cause. I want you to place it in your mind's eye. What if I were to tell you now that every single one of you have the resources, the ability to fund that charity that's on your heart with over $1 million? According to government sources, the average amount of an unclaimed property check is $892 per claim. So I put some checks out on your chairs today, just like this, $892. And all you need to do to claim your lost money is follow the 4 steps on the back of the check. That's it. Okay, so let's go a little forward to, back in your mind's eye. If there's $892 due, and we know today that there's $58 billion that's available just from the state departments alone, that basically equates to the fact that 65 million people all have the ability right now to cash one of these checks. So imagine what would happen if those 65 million people started to pay it forward in life. And this is what I'm talking about today, how to make change with your lost money. For over 30 years, I've been working with consumers to recover their unclaimed property, and I wanted to make a point by using a photo that kind of gave you that impression. Oh, come on, I still have my hair all the way in the back, too. Keep in mind, lost money can be anything from unclaimed bank accounts, stocks, utility deposits, insurance funds, and most importantly, it can be an estate asset from your great-great-grandfather. And the most important issue is that 95% of the money is hidden. So you have to look, you have to search through all of your family members' names. For the past 20 years, I've been providing this service for free. And luckily, over the past decade, I've been able to help recover $500 million for the American consumers, averaging $5 to $6 million a year in charitable donations. Most people ask me, the most common question is why? Why would I do this for free? Well, the short answer is I feel I've been truly blessed in life. And as such, this is my way to pay it forward. The longer answer, the more detailed, is what a lot of people can connect with, and that's my parents and my history. I was born outside of Washington, D.C. My father was in the Eisenhower administration in the White House, and my mother was a volunteer for various organizations. It was these two individuals that had dedicated their lives in service to others that became my mentors. When I lost my father at the age of 14, I quickly had to become self-sufficient and the man of the house. So the entrepreneur in me came out. And during that time period, I started studying law and followed a career path in the investigative industry. During the first year in the investigative market, I was approached by one of my clients, an attorney, who was looking for bank accounts that would belong to a deceased client. And I thought to myself, that can't be too difficult. We'll just track those accounts down. And what ended up happening was, through that process, I found the gold mine. I discovered that these unclaimed bank accounts got reported to the Department of Revenue in a department called unclaimed property. Once again, shouldn't be a hard task to find it, but of course there was no markings on the marquee of the building or on the directory of the building or even on the office where I found the unclaimed property. Nothing to indicate that unclaimed property existed. However, when I opened the door, what I did discover was a little old lady hunched over a metal desk going through these 3x5 cards. And as I looked around the room, I was amazed of all the file cabinets filled with these cards, each one representing anything from $50, $500, $5,000, $50,000 and more. Well, needless to say, I was starting to, as you can imagine, feeling like Ben Gates in the movie National Treasure, as he lights the torch and all of a sudden the room fills up and you see the treasure. Well, the entrepreneur in me popped out. And then the consumer side of me came out and went, and I need to find a way to help keep the money in the consumer's hands versus coming to this department. The next step was trying to find a way to connect the money to the consumers. And I did so by reaching out to one of my bank clients, and I put together a proposal where we would introduce to their customers a way to recover the money before it ever reached the state. And I thought this was a win. There was no way that this could not be a PR bonanza for the bank. Well, I didn't hear from him for a while, and a few weeks went by, and finally I sat down with him, and the answer was not what I was anticipating. As a matter of fact, it was pretty shocking to me. What I came to realize is that as an account comes into the bank, such as when Uncle Bob's nephew is just born and he opens a $500 savings account for his nephew, that when there's no activity on that account, after a while the bank starts service charging the account to the point where when it reaches the state, there maybe is only $50 or $75 left. The bank had no interest in me contacting their customers and letting them know about these accounts. So I learned a very valuable lesson, and that being that he who has the gold wants to keep it, no matter if it belongs to him or not. And all I could think about is, how can we change this industry so that the money gets back to the people? What can be done? Well, let's clear up some facts, maybe address a few secrets. First, the money is yours. No matter if it was your great-great-grandfather's, your parents', your great-uncle, it doesn't matter. Once they're deceased, the money belongs to you, and it stays that way. The second thing is, there's over $1 trillion of lost money out there. 1 trillion. With 58 billion of that sitting at the state level right now, just waiting for you to come collect your check. The third thing is the recovery rate. The average recovery rate for a state unclaimed property office is 6%. So every $100 that comes in, they pay out $6. Well, we've been averaging 94%. Maybe there's a little more motivation on our side. The next thing to remember is no matter what the dollar amount is, collect it. If it's $28, $78, collect it. Why? Because that $78 may simply be a dividend for a much larger asset that has not been reported yet. So let's take a look at these figures. Here, the state of Texas has $4 billion available. And last year, they reported $230 million returned in their last fiscal year. That's a lot of money. Oh, wait, $4 billion, 230, what? That's under 6%. And then, of course, we got the state of Connecticut that just released these figures. The treasurer was so excited because they just got a boost in their general fund for $69 million. They're all excited because, as she reported, this means that we don't have to tax our citizens at $69 million. The first thing we need to do is pledge 10%. Remember that charity you have on your heart? Pledge 10%, or whatever it is you can pledge, of whatever the dollar amount is on the check that you receive. The second thing is you need to make a list of your family members in order to do the searches. If you need to, secure genealogy reports. Any of your family members that have lived in the U.S. and have passed away, you need those names. The third thing to do is conduct the searches. Third thing on your list on your checks. In every state, wherever your family members were residing. And then fourth, claim the money. It's yours. So when we talked about, making change with lost money, I asked you to envision that charity, that humanitarian cause that's near and dear to you. And of course, there's so many of them. For me, our homeless is one of them. And there's really no price tag that I can put on it to help our homeless. And then we have our environment. At what point in time and what sacrifice do we need to make to correct what we have already done? These areas are near and dear to me, as well as my oldest sons, Wayne and Christopher, who have spent their professional lives working on sustainability issues and on the homeless. So I've asked you to place that special charity on your heart, in your mind's eye, and at this point I'd like to show you one of mine. What's on my heart?
A lot of people don't realize how, amazing it is for us to be able to come here and get away from everything and all of the hospital treatments, the doctor visits, and just feel like normal kids.
I describe Camp Rainbow Gold as home. It's a second home. I've gone here ever since I was 6.
You got off that bus and you automatically felt like you belonged. Hugs were given out. Love was automatically shared.
People that love you automatically just grasping onto you and supporting you.
You felt like this is where you were supposed to be. This was a second home.
You're going through puberty and you're going through everything else. And then on top of it, you have to worry about, am I going to survive? What am I gonna do tomorrow? How am I gonna face, like Hannah, how am I gonna face everybody looking at me in the wheelchair and stuff?
And it's so tough for a kid to be diagnosed with a life-threatening illness and not know if they're gonna make it.
Up here, no one judges because they all have differences.
It changes their lives. And I can speak from experience. It changed my life, and I would not be where I am today, and I want those kids to have the same thing.
Okay. So what charity's on your heart? What a humanitarian cause can you envision making a change on with that $1 million? For me, I've done this, and I've worked with the charities and have recovered the money, and I realize that we can each do so. What you have to do, though, is you have to search through all your family members. And you got to first stop thinking about the search process being just you. Expand it through all the family members. And the average claim that we've processed now for the consumers in America is over $8,000, with 8 out of 10 adult Americans having a claim available to them. So as soon as you start thinking outside of your family and start looking also at your friends and theirs, the 6 degrees of separation, if you will, you can quickly realize you can raise that money for the charity. Your social networks alone. All you have to do is let them know the money exists and tell them about that charity that's on your heart. During my entire career in the unclaimed property market, I have considered that the problem really had one simple resolution, and that was education. Educating the public as to what unclaimed property was and how to claim it. It wasn't until this past year that one morning, during a conversation with my 2 oldest sons, that we were talking about the changes that needed to take place in this world with humanitarian efforts and with sustainability. And that's when I said, it's education. We have to educate them. And my oldest son said, no. He said, what is required is a paradigm shift in how people perceive the problems we face. Well, that conversation connected all the dots for me. It's only through a collective effort, through all of us, that we're going to be able to collect that $58 billion and make a change in this world. This is a paradigm shift for us. A time where we truly need to come together to help out others and do so without simply reaching into our pocket to write a check or to hand a homeless person a few dollars. And this is where together we can make a difference, a positive difference, and one that's never ever happened in the history of this world. Thank you.